Hello, welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. We have another 3 stories for you today. You determine my work time by the phone log? Then I will too. Wearing sunglasses indoors. And you want the hottest sauce? Sure, enjoy. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Alright, let's get started. Our first story. You determine my work time by the phone log? Then I will too. At the end, there's a TLDR. I was working for a company that had recently had some rapid turnover of managers and people. I worked for one of the 2 customer service departments. My department handles service calls, and the other department handles incoming orders. We had been without a manager for several months and were doing pretty well. Our new manager comes on board and wants to change things up and use fairly useless metrics to judge things. I had been at the company for many years at that point, so I could do the work in either department without a problem. On days I was scheduled to work the later shift, 1 to 9, I would come in a couple of hours early to help enter orders for the other team. Because of the loss of people, this was really needed. One of the days I was in early, my new manager took me aside to talk. She told me how much she appreciated my coming in early to help, but there was an issue. I was logging into the phone queue after my starting time. She showed me a report that I had logged into the phone late several times. It's usually a minute or 2, but there was one time I was 7 minutes late. I explained that I am usually in the building on time or early, but don't usually log into the phone if I get distracted by a question or if I am in early entering orders. She told me late was late and the phone log was her determining factor. Going forward after that, I stopped coming in early and focused on logging in on time. I wouldn't talk about work with anyone until I logged onto the phone. About a week went by before the manager noticed that I wasn't coming in early anymore and asked me about it. I told her that I didn't want anything distracting me and keeping me from logging in on time. She was pissed but couldn't do anything about it. She continued to micromanage our departments until half of my department went to a direct competitor and named her as the reason they were leaving. She lasted 2 days after that. TLDR, my new boss complains that I was late to work because I didn't log into the phone on time. I was coming in early to help another of her departments, which is why I was late. I stopped coming in early and made sure to not do any work until I logged into my phone. Our next story. Wearing sunglasses indoors. I read someone else's naval story, and it reminded me of my compliance story. I used to really have trouble with light sensitivity, likely from leaving my contacts in way longer than I should have. I finally ditched the contacts altogether and opted for glasses. I opted for civilian glasses rather than the navy issue because they were downright fugly. The ones I picked had a slight tint for indoor lighting and would get darker in sunlight for use outdoors. You could still see my eyes clearly, but I really was wearing almost no sunglasses indoors. This setup was fine and dandy until I was stationed on my ship. My chief passed me in the corridor one day and stopped me, voicing his displeasure with my choice of eyewear, demanding that I go to medical and get Navy-issue glasses to wear while on the boat. While I wasn't happy with this, I of course went to see the doctor. They sent me out to the medical center on base where I was evaluated, poked, prodded, dilated, etc. And ended up being diagnosed as photophobic, a fancy word for light sensitive. They special ordered me government-issued glasses and sent me back to the ship to wait for them to arrive. It took time and a couple pairs, but shockingly, the first set sent out weren't correct. They had some rose-colored tint that made things worse, but I finally received my newly minted, government-issued glasses. They were straight-up sunglasses. The doctor on board made sure that my medical diagnosis was entered into my record and sent me off to work. I admit I had some difficulty indoors in poorly lit areas of the ship, but I dutifully wore my fugly navy glasses. I didn't see the chief for a bit, but once I did, he popped his cork big time. He marched me right down to the doctor's office on the ship and started giving the doctor a hard time. He thought that I had been given control over what was issued to me and was ready to bend me over a barrel. The doctor shut him down and actually showed him my medical record and diagnosis. So much for privacy. I continued to wear my fuglies for a couple months until my chief finally relented and allowed me to return to my civilian glasses. I'm not sure if that happened after the CO saw me, but it likely had. And our last story. You want the hottest sauce? Sure, enjoy. English is my first language, on mobile, but I'm terrible at it. I have been known to enjoy hot sauce, but not the stuff that blows your head off and leaves you crying in pain. The stuff that builds up in flavor and intensifies until you get the best of both worlds. This summer, we had some friends over for dinner, and they brought their kids along. We've been friends for a while now, and while the kids were playing, the adults were sat down having a few drinks and chatting when the topic of hot ones came up. The dad said he liked hot sauce too and wondered if we had any. Not wanting to go all out, I offered him some Tabasco sauce, to which he put some on his fried chicken and ate. No problems. The dad called his son over, who also apparently likes hot sauce, and the son quickly consumed it without problem. I mentioned that I had some hot sauces if they wanted to try some, as a friend had sent some of the hot sauces from Hot Ones over, not the bomb but the Hot Ones own brand range. The dad said, "Give me your hottest sauce that you have. It's easy enough to eat that my son and I can eat it without problem." Out came the sauces and I suggested that they have just a little bit before going all out. The son was adamant that he could try a larger amount than his dad, and the dad obliged him. I had prepared some cooling food and drinks, usual ice cream, milk, water, etc., as I knew what was coming up. The kid wolfed down the hot sauce and fried chicken without complaint and was boasting about it. To his dad. To my kids, to anyone that would listen. Then the pain hit. The son was doing laps around the house, crying for his mom, stripping off to cool down. The dad reminded his son of how he said he could handle more than him and the mom, while obviously worried about the son, did say it was his own fault. Since then, whenever the boy has come over to play, he's asked for nothing hotter than Tabasco hot sauce. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.